Hello and welcome to another edition of Resource Review, the programme that puts teaching resources through their paces, both here in the studio and in the classroom. Today we're focusing on secondary PSHE. Recommending today's resources is our subject specialist, Kay Lord. Kay is an independent consultant working with Wigan LEA as a PSHE advisor. She's also a member of the QCA PSHE steering group and is secretary of the National Health Education Group. Also on the panel is Alan Mills, a former teacher who is now head of the affiliation network for the Specialist Schools Trust, and Adrienne Jones, a freelance education consultant. She's a former teacher turned resource specialist. Well, a warm welcome to all of you. Kay, you're recommending 3 resources today, a large pack and 2 books. What sets these apart from everything else that's available for secondary PSHE?
Well, they address very contentious and emotive areas in drug education and sex and relationships education. And they are very well respected resources from respected agencies.
Well, let's begin then with the pack. It's called What's the Score on Drugs? It's published by Rowan Tree. Tell us more about it. Most of what we can see here is part of the pack, isn't it?
It's a very comprehensive pack indeed. You get in essence a series of lessons for different age groups, year 7 up to year 10. And they're outcome driven, which I think is very important for PSHE. We're actually talking about what the children will know, understand and be able to do at the end of the lesson, not just the knowledge.
Okay. Well, let's see this resource in use. We took What's the Score on Drugs to Kings Meadow Secondary School, where drug advisor from Gateshead Council, Linda Robinson, is using it with a Year 8 class.
In the pack you have the main folder, which basically is your plan, it's your map, and then it has a lot of lesson plans which make reference to other things. You've got 6 videos in there as well, which cover a wide range of attitudinal points of view and a lot of information, and you also have reference to a lot of free resources like leaflets from what was the Health Development Agency. And what it actually does is brings everything together. There is a lot of good stuff out there. This coordinates it. Being drunk can be dangerous. Discuss and write down 3 risks involved in drinking too much on only 1 occasion. You might get jumped on and beaten up. That's a good one, write down. The students thought that the discussion questions were fantastic and the forms are easy to fill in and it's not death by worksheet. So what 3 things could happen? You tell me 1 that might happen to you if you drink too much.
It could be sexually assaulted.
Sexually assaulted. If you were a new NQT coming into school, you could pick this up and say, I need to do a Year 8 lesson, go straight to the section where it says Year 8. There's a series of lessons there. You can see what comes before it, what comes after it. So if you know the basis of the learning, you're straight in there. Give yourself a pat on the back. Say, well done, you clever person.
Kay, there's a lot of material in this resource. How would a teacher decide what to use with which age group?
What's really good about this pack is that the first lesson of every year begins with, well, what do you know now? And that becomes the starting point.
And how would they use the resource? Is that using worksheets as well as the videos?
There are worksheets, there's group work, there's paired work, there's videos to watch, there's cards, there's all kinds of different methodologies that should keep most children interested in this aspect of learning.
And again, is it down to the teacher to really decide what to pull out of the resource for their particular class?
I think if it's to be used effectively, then it has to fit with the needs of the children in your particular class.
Now, Alan, we saw there a drug advisor from the local council using the resource. Clearly, they're going to be an expert. What about a teacher in school? Is this going to help them become the expert to teach this topic?
There's an immense amount of resource there. There must be something that's of help. And certainly there's items in it which push you into other directions, which I'm sure will be very useful indeed. So there's going to be lots of things there people can use. I'm not sure if that's the intention of the package, to make them into experts. It's to give them a set of resources which they can use in the lessons which they've already devised. And I think it does that very successfully.
Adrienne, what are your thoughts on the versatility of this resource?
Well, it's got such a lot in it that there is a lot of relevance. I did have some doubt, though, over bringing together a collection of resources produced by other publishers, where, I mean, I know for a fact that some of the videos, the Channel 4 videos, they were made a long time ago. So given that, you know, drugs education or the drug scene changes fairly rapidly in many ways, I just wonder how relevant some resources that were made several years ago would still be.
I think the issue of the videos, you're always going to have that as a problem. I mean, there's one video about Leah Betts, well, it is some time ago, and schools did receive a copy of that video when it was more noteworthy and newsworthy. But I think it does have relevance, because you can look at the media portrayal, you can look at the responsibility, and you can address perhaps, you know, what you might have done differently. So the issue remains the same. It's possibly the teacher needs to be aware of the update, and I think that's why in the resource there are links to different websites and things where you can get this up-to-date information.
Well, thank you all very much. Now let's move on to our second resource, away from drugs and onto sexual health. It's a handbook and it's called Protect Yourself. Kate, here is the book. What does it consist of and why did you choose it?
I chose it because it's from Brooke, who do an awful lot of work in this area in schools and providing resources. I feel it provides the ready-made, which is what it says, the ready-made package.
So this is for teachers, but also containing material for pupils?
It's lesson plans. It's a series of 8 lesson plans with a whole lot of information beforehand, of advice to teachers of how to use it.
And what topics does it cover?
It covers the whole area of sexually transmitted infections.
Well, we gave this resource to Alice Carlisle, a PSHE specialist at John Kelly Girls Technology College, and asked her for her opinions on this resource.
I've been looking at Protect Yourself, which is a Brooke publication on sexually transmitted infections and contraception. My first impression of this book is that it's really user-friendly for a teacher. It explains very clearly what the curriculum links are. It talks about the activities very simply. It tells you what prior knowledge the students need to have. It tells you very clearly what preparation you need to do. And it gives you very clear guidelines of how to run the activities. I like the way the material was approached. It talks a lot about myths and facts, and I think that's one thing that a lot of teenagers get confused by, because there's all these stories being passed around and I get all sorts of questions being asked to me. And it gives us the opportunity, through looking at statements, whether they are reality or not, and it opens a discussion. They've obviously kept it really simple and clean, and that's fine, because you're wanting to just get impart the information. And although from the perspective of the students, many of the worksheets aren't visually appealing particularly, but you're not, you know, you're just dealing with the information, and I don't know if a few little sort of sketches here and there necessarily make any difference. I like the fact that all I could simply pick it up, photocopy the sheets, do 5-10 minutes preparation, and I would be ready to go, and that's, you know, that's really suits me.
Well, Kay, Alice is a rare breed. She's a PSHE specialist. There aren't many around. How accessible is this for those non-specialist teachers?
I think it's very accessible, because it does lay out very easily the format of the lesson. It says what the outcomes will be, what you need. It takes you through the activities that you can use in the time that is allocated to the lesson. It also has been rewritten to meet the needs of the PSHE certificated teachers, and we're now approaching 5,000 of those. And the government's aim is that there will be one such specialist in each school. So with that background, most teachers should be able to use this resource safely and competently.
Adrienne?
Brooke have always had a good track record of appreciating the empathy that's needed when speaking with young people in, you know, about life experiences, and it's often actually in a school situation. that young people speak about things of what they might perceive as an embarrassing nature, but it's often with the teacher. So to have something as sensitively produced as that, which gives good background support for any teacher, you know, who's involved in teaching it, I think it's sensitively written.
Alan, do you think there's a risk to come across as preaching to your class? I mean, how does that resource address that problem with this topic?
Well, there's always a risk, but I think the fact that there is a safe environment as a primary objective, there's the opportunity to talk about things slightly dispassionately. Having the outline there, having the sort of the plan in front of you will make an awful lot of difference. And we know that schools have got to discuss these issues. It's really crucial they do that, and they need all the backup they can. I think we've all agreed that that does in a very sensitive manner, and it's something that people can pick up, look at, and work through at their own speed and with their own environment in mind.
I think one of the issues, of course, is that we as teachers didn't have the benefits of this kind of education when we were that age. So it can be quite difficult for teachers to feel competent and confident to deliver this. And I do feel that this resource tells you how to do it in such an easy way that it gives you such a firm background to approach this area of work.
Well, thank you all very much. Now let's move on to our third resource, also on the topic of sex and relationships. It's a handbook. It's called Assessment, Evaluation and Sex and Relationships Education, and it's from the National Children's Bureau. Now, Kay, this strikes me as a similar resource to the one we've just been discussing. Was that deliberate?
I chose this because assessment in PSHE is a very, very difficult area. And with the rise of the end of key stage statements from QCA, teachers will be expected to make judgments about how far children have met the standard. Are they working at or beyond or towards it? That's in line with other national curriculum subject areas.
So what does this resource actually do? What does it contain?
It contains 3 sections. The first is very, very short about best practice in SRE. The second part is sort of background around assessment and evaluation, because they are 2 different things. And then the bulk of the book is 40 activities which will help to address the assessment and or the evaluation of the students' learning and of the course of work that they have followed.
And could this work in conjunction with the previous resource?
It could indeed. It could work very, very well in tandem with that resource. It's a very good start for what is a very difficult area for teachers, and it offers some practical suggestions. And as it says, it is a toolkit.
Well, thank you all very much. That's all we've got time for today. But just to summarise, we looked at 3 resources. The first was the pack, What's the Score on Drugs, from Rowan Tree. The second was Protect Yourself, Teacher's Book by Brooke. And thirdly, another handbook, Assessment, Evaluation and Sex and Relationships Education, from the National Children's Bureau. Don't forget, for more information about all of the resources featured in today's programme and to post your own comments about resources for secondary PSHE, go to our website. It's teachers.tv/resource review. Or if you want to, email us. We're at resourcereview@teachers.tv. So I'd like to say a big thank you to our panellists, to Kay, to Alan and to Adrienne. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.